Negotiators from Ukraine and Russia are set to meet in Istanbul today for the third time in recent months. But President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says that a ceasefire is not on the agenda, with the talks focusing on prisoner exchanges. Meanwhile, NATO allies are scrambling to find Patriot air defense systems to send to Ukraine. The American-made systems are in short supply. Germany has 9 units and says that it is willing to send 2 to Kyiv, but only if they can be replaced by the U.S. within the coming months.
A dramatic shift in tone from Washington. President Trump says the U.S. will again supply weapons to Ukraine, provided European and NATO allies pay for them. But it's become clear that Trump's announcement was more of an idea than a concrete plan, leaving NATO allies scrambling to negotiate who will provide what equipment and how fast they can get it to Ukraine. At least 8 NATO countries, Canada, the UK, Germany, Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and the Netherlands, have said they are willing to participate in Trump's weapons purchasing plan. Alongside ammunition and other arms deliveries, the big-ticket item is the Patriot air defense system, which can intercept some of Russia's most advanced missiles. But there are issues with supply. Besides the billion-dollar price tag, a Patriot system takes 2 years to produce and requires up to 90 people to operate it. Its interceptor missiles cost more than $4 million each, and the U.S. only makes 600 of them per year. With Washington also refusing to provide Ukraine with any of its own stockpiles, getting new systems into Ukrainian hands is proving a logistical nightmare. Germany had originally planned to buy 2 new Patriot missile systems from the U.S. and deliver them directly to Ukraine, but the weapons are simply not available. Instead, Germany could now send 2 Patriot systems from its own supply if they are quickly replaced when new systems are produced. Neighboring Switzerland says the U.S. has informed it that a Swiss order for 5 Patriot batteries will be reprioritized in order to support Kyiv. Whether these will be redirected to Ukraine or used to resupply a NATO ally like Germany is unclear. But as Russia escalates drone and missile attacks across Ukraine, the pressure is on to supply Kyiv as quickly as possible.
And for more now, we turn to Terry Schultz, who's standing by for us in Brussels. One might say that air defense in Europe is its Achilles heel, Terry. So, if these European countries send more of their own systems to Ukraine, how exposed does that leave their own skies?
Well, it's one of the Achilles heels, Sarah. Europe knows that it's way behind on providing for its own defense, much less on having extra to send to Ukraine. At the same time, as you mentioned, they're doing their best at the moment. So what officials constantly say, especially now that the United States has thrown its weight behind providing more air defense capability to Ukraine, is that the better we do with Ukraine to stop Russia's assault, the more safe that we are in Europe. So I just spoke with an official yesterday who said that any country who's worried about protecting itself from incoming missiles should send their systems to Ukraine, because that's the best way to keep Europe safe. That's really the mindset at the moment, that Europe is really not under any immediate threat of incoming missiles like Ukraine is. So they really want all NATO countries which have parts of Patriot systems or other air defense systems to send them as quickly as they can to Kyiv.
And we heard in the report, Terry, that the U.S. only produces around 600 Patriot interceptors per year. The Ukrainians are quickly burning through these stockpiles. The demand is huge. Germany also looking to produce the interceptors domestically. What more can you tell us about how quickly production can be ramped up?
That's right. This would be a really important move for Germany. And as you say, it has been announced that Rheinmetall and Lockheed Martin will cooperate to start producing the interceptor missiles and other missiles as well, not just for the Patriot system domestically. But that isn't expected to really produce anything until late next year or even 2027. So that's a long distance off, and Ukraine needs these missiles now. So that's not an immediate solution. It is is, on the other hand, a longer-term solution for those countries who say if we send what we've got now from our stockpiles, we won't be able to reproduce them ourselves. They would produce up to 10,000 annually, I'm told. So this would be a long-term solution, and again, reinforce the argument that Europe doesn't need these supplies right now, so to send them to Ukraine.
France and Italy are two major NATO member states that will not be contributing to buying more U.S.-made Patriot systems for Ukraine. Instead, they're calling on a European alternative. To what extent does this expose a rift in the alliance?
It's the same old rift that has always been there, particularly with France taking its own way in NATO. And again, what NATO officials will say and what U.S. officials would say as well is that if France doesn't want to send Patriots, they should be sending more of their own systems. France has an air defense system called the SAMP-T, and it has sent 2 systems so far. And I understand that a third one is on its way later this year. So I think that supporters of Ukraine would say, fine, France, you don't want to send the Patriots? Send more of your own.
DW correspondent Terry Schultz in Brussels. Thank you.
Oh, let's get some analysis with Andras Rasch, who's a senior fellow at the German Council on Foreign Relations Center for Security and Defense. He joins us from Budapest. Andras, you've described Donald Trump's idea of Europeans paying for US-made Patriot systems as a unique opportunity. Do you think the Europeans view it the same way?
Some Europeans certainly do. I mean, this US offer that European NATO allies could pay for US weapons to be delivered for Ukraine constitutes a major policy shift in the United States' approach to Russia. Because this offer from Trump, or rather an idea yet, indicates that now Trump is ready to put also direct pressure on Russia by supplying Ukraine with high-tech weapons should Europeans pay for them. And the bottleneck, of course, the problem is the timeline in terms of the availability of the weapons. However, if Europe can find the money for these weapon systems, and it's not only about Patriots. Patriot is just one part of the package that could ease the pressure on Ukraine on the medium run. This is also important, though, only in the medium run. No such deal would offer an immediate relief on the front line.
Let's talk about finding the money. France and Italy, 2 of Europe's biggest and strongest economies, have already said they will not be contributing money. Can the idea still work?
The idea could still work, of course. France and Italy are considering the option of providing Ukraine with air defense systems of their own make, namely the SAMP-T systems, which are also efficient against Russian missiles and cruise missiles. So from the French and Italian perspective, providing Ukraine with their own weapons is absolutely logical. However, for the SAMP-T missiles, the same restrictions apply like with the Patriots, 2 of them. First, availability. And second, it's important to see that right now the biggest danger for Ukraine in terms of Russia's air war are not the ballistic missiles, but the massive waves of cheap drones. And it makes no sense to fire a $4 million Patriot on a $30,000 drones. So cheap solution is needed quickly for the drones. Patriots are more against the ballistic missiles.
Now, you've called on Germany to lead by example and invest more than others in these US-made systems. Do you also think Germany should give 2 of its own Patriot systems to Ukraine? Does Germany need all their Patriots right now?
I'm not in the position to assess the details of German defense planning, and probably even if I had the information, which I don't, I wouldn't be allowed to tell it. So this is not a question I'm entitled to answer. I'm sorry for that.
No worries. Do you expect a tangible outcome from today's meeting?
Depends on how do we call tangible. This meeting, based on the composition of the Russian delegation, does not have the mandate to offer any kind of political concession. So this will not lead any closer to the ceasefire. However, it is realistic to hope that more agreements could be reached on the exchange of prisoners of war and also of the bodies of soldiers killed in action. Diplomacy is always the art of the possible. If POW exchange it could be facilitated, that's already a better result than nothing at all. So this is what I expect.
Andras Rasch there from the Center for Security and Defense at the German Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.